Great summit, Andrew. Lots of cool talks so far, lots of cool discussions on AI and other cutting-edge technology.
Yeah, this talk will be a little bit different. We're going to talk about technologies that have been around for hundreds of years, like paper flyers.
And bathrooms. Bathrooms have been around for hundreds, if not thousands, of years. Hi, everyone. My name is Kanu Tewary. I'm a technical program manager based out of the San Francisco Bay Area, and I work at the Office of Cross Google Engineering.
Hi, my name is Andrew Trenk. I'm based in New York City, and I'm a software engineer on Google Search. If any of you are looking for a new productivity hack, we might have one for you, but it's probably not in a place you're expecting to increase your productivity.
Yeah, today we'll be talking to you about how Google uses bathroom breaks to improve developer knowledge and productivity. This is through an effort that both Andrew and I are involved in. And we'll go ahead and get started. But if you do have a question in between the talk, please hold it in until after the talk. Just kidding. Just bathroom humor here. So,
if you've ever visited a Google office, you might have noticed the flyers posted on the bathroom stalls. This talk is about these flyers, which are part of an initiative at Google called Tech on the Toilet, or TUTT for short. TUTT is a weekly one-page publication. It's posted in bathrooms in Google offices worldwide, and it contains actionable tips about software development. Our tagline is the number one and number two source for software development knowledge in Google's bathrooms. There's a bathroom joke in there, and we'll try our best not to make any more bathroom jokes in this talk. TUTT covers any topics relevant to software development. There's some examples listed on the slide. The first two, coding best practices and unit testing, are the most popular topics it covers. Some other examples are integration testing, code reviews, internal developer tools, production, machine learning, and web development. Here's an example TUTT episode. This is also the most popular one. It's part of a series we called Healthy Code on the Commode, which covers coding best practices. So you don't need to read through the whole page, and we don't expect readers in the bathroom to read through the whole page in one bathroom trip. So I'll step you through the most important parts. The advice of the episode is summarized in the title: reduce code complexity by reducing nesting. Right below the title, we show the name of the author. Anyone at Google can write a TUTT episode, and we rely on people across the company to contribute content. A large portion of the page is devoted to the code samples. So there are two code samples shown side by side. On the left, in the red background, there's code that's hard to understand because it uses several levels of nested if statements. On the right, in the green background, is the same code that's rewritten to avoid nested if statements, so it's easier to understand. Both code samples have the same bug. On the left side of the slide, you can see a simplified version of the code with a bug. In the version with nested if statements, you can see the code is a little bit complicated. For example, the first two lines check the authorized user and then coding, but the code that handles these cases is several lines away in the else statements. If you compare that to the code without nested if statements, the one in green on the page, you can see the code is easier to understand because the errors are handled right away in the if statements, and it's easier to see what the bug is. The wrong encoding and unauthorized errors are swapped. This pattern is known as a guard clause, meaning the function returns right away if it can't continue, rather than wrapping the logic in else statements. This TUTT episode and any other one can be understood just by reading the highlighted text in bold red. This makes it easier to skim through the content without reading every word on the page. We assume many readers will spend maybe 20 or 30 seconds reading this in the bathroom. This TUTT episode and many others are available online. The URL is listed on the bottom of the slide, testing.googleblog.com. In the version that we post online, all the episodes we post on our blog, we also provide a printable version that you can print out and post in bathrooms in your office. And by the way, any links we use in this talk, they're available in the Whova app on the page for this talk. If you just look for an attachment called presentation links. Here's another example TUTT episode. This one is about unit testing. It's called Don't Put Logic in Tests. The point of this one is that if you add logic in your unit tests, such as loops or conditional statements, it becomes harder to be confident that the code is correct. So if you look on the page, the first code sample in red shows a unit test that looks correct at first glance, but it actually has a bug in it. And the bug is hard to notice because the test uses logic. And below that, in the yellow code sample, is the same test, but without using logic, and the bug is more obvious. So if you look on the left side of the slide, you can see the code with a bug. In the test that uses logic, it creates a string variable and assigns part of a URL to that. And the assert statement takes that string variable and appends another string to it to create the URL. But if you compare that to the test that doesn't use logic, the entire string is hard-coded into the search statement, and it makes it more obvious to see what the bug is. There are 2 slashes in part of the URL where there should only be 1. And you can also read this TTT episode online. Not all TTT episodes are about coding best practices. Many of them cover internal tools or infrastructure at Google. TTT episodes about this content it only covers topics that are not confidential because it's visible to people visiting Google offices. This one is about an internal web app at Google called Code Search, which is how Google engineers search through Google's code base. It covers a feature in Code Search that allows you to filter your search results. There's an example filter listed on the slide. If you use this filter, it will limit your search results to only code in C++ or Java, and that has the word photos in its directory path. The episode has a big screenshot of the Code Search UI, and it shows an example usage of the feature.
Yeah, so Andrew showed you some representative examples of TOTT episodes that are put up in bathrooms. And what you may have gathered from this is that all of these episodes are highly actionable. So TOTT was started as a grassroots effort to make a change in values and induced behaviors in the developer community at Google. And the culture of a company can be described as a shared set of values and behaviors. That's why we're saying that the reason TOTT was started was as a bottom-up approach to make a culture shift. So the year was 2006, and Google was growing through a very fast development, a large amount of development in terms of the number of employees, the products. There were a large number of acquisitions. YouTube was acquired that year. And in the graph that you see on the left-hand side, you can see that the number of employees almost doubled between 2005 and 2006. There were leaps and bounds in the products like Google Search. You can see a screenshot of Google Search back in 2006. And with all this growth came challenges like a huge number of bugs, costly rollback releases. And the reason for this was that at that time, there wasn't that much of a unit testing culture at Google. So there was this group of software engineers passionate about testing who formed this group called the Testing Grouplet. And they took it upon themselves to start spreading awareness of software testing at Google. And they did this by proselytizing about testing through, fun things like ice cream socials and so on. And sorry, I have to also mention, they had this light bulb logo, which says, debugging sucks, testing rocks. And this famed light bulb logo is actually adapted for TOTT, and it's still very much our logo. So as the story goes, the testing grouplet was sitting around. They were throwing around ideas of how best to increase awareness of testing. And someone said, let's start a lending library in the bathrooms for software testing books. And then somebody else said, let's just tear pages out of those books and post them onto bathroom walls. And that's how the idea of one-pagers posted in bathroom walls came about. And this effort was called Testing on the Toilet. So you can see here the very first episode of Testing on the Toilet that was posted in bathrooms. It was a very international effort. It was written by an engineer in Mountain View, the headquarters at Google. It was just printed and posted by an engineer in the London office. It's a very simple episode. It just has a code snippet and then recommended changes to the snippet. You can probably take a look at this later. It had a link to the blog to get more information. It was meant to be read very quickly when somebody was in the bathrooms. So once this first episode was published, there were a bunch of other episodes in the pipeline. They were all authored by engineers at Google. Other engineers at Google in other offices started posting these onto bathroom walls. And they just volunteered to start posting these. And then this way, TOTT started reaching thousands of people across Google. So Mike Bland, one of the original members of the testing grouplet, he's an ex-Googler, and he wrote this fantastic, very detailed history about testing of the toilet. He noted that people were outraged. Some people were outraged. Some folks were terribly outraged, and they were like, "How could you violate the sanctity of our bathrooms, crossing some arbitrary line of decency?" So, but apart from that, there was a mostly very positive reaction. In fact, people started saying, "Oh, how come TOTT doesn't get refreshed in a timely manner at our sites?" Or "How come TOTT isn't posted in our sites?" And they started volunteering to post TOTT in their sites. So volunteers started cropping up around the globe, and this way the word about TOTT spread. I have to note at this point that neither Andrew or I were part of this testing grouplet. We weren't part of the origin story of TOTT, but it's all part of the really well-documented history of TOTT. And you can read more in the link that's provided. So with all this excitement about TOTT, how the testing grouplet knew that TOTT had finally arrived was when Sergey Brin, the co-founder of Google, at Google's all hands meeting, responded to a question about readability, actually, in that meeting. And he goes, "I haven't done any coding in a while, but I know a whole lot about testing. And do you know why?" And the all hands audience falls silent. And he goes, "What, don't you guys read the flyers they put up in restrooms?" So that was then. This is now, 18 years later. TOTT caters to an audience of well over 50,000. And this is like average per episode audience. There are more than 700 episodes published. There are 300,000 or so page views for the site, the website, and the episodes. Over the past year, these are average over a year or so. And there are more than 550 authors. So Andrew and I have each taught TOTT episodes. And also there are a total of 6 authors here at the DPE Summit, I believe, over last year and this year. So TOTT has come a pretty long way in terms of numbers. It's distributed to over 40 sites, Google offices, Google sites, I should say, around the world. And thousands of bathroom stalls. And we now partner with the facilities team to do the distribution. Whereas 18 years ago, it was all volunteer run. Now we have a collaboration with facilities. We post on a bi-weekly basis. So we post episodes in the bathrooms every 2 weeks, even though episodes are published every week. And we do this just to save time for the facilities team. The audience, apart from the physical posters the one-pagers we put up in bathrooms, so the audience, apart from the audience in the bathrooms, we have people looking at the TOT website. We also have more than 10,000 people on our internal mailing list. This is a screenshot of the TOT website, which has, as Andrew mentioned before, there are various topics, and the episodes are organized by topic for easy discoverability. Also, we have an external blog post. There are more than 100 blog posts there. So TOTT is demonstrably an efficient and effective way to spread software testing knowledge across Google. It's efficient because of the infrastructure we've set up for the weekly publishing and the bi-weekly posting. It is effective as opposed to means like simple emails. And the impact of TOTT can be measured in a couple of ways. It depends on the type of TOTT episode. So Andrew showed you 3 examples. So 2 examples were actually software best practices, and one was internal tools and infrastructure. So those are roughly the 2 buckets. And if we look at the first one, which is TOTT as an authoritative source for best practices, the best measure of the impact of TOTT there is through citations. So by citations, we mean how many references pop up in like docs, bugs, and internal question sites, and also in code reviews. So there are hundreds of citations of TOTT that pop up in code reviews. And we have a few examples here. Typically, the TOTTs are referenced using these short Go links. So, for example, Go taught 677, and also episode 465 is pointed out in the middle one. And so, for example, prefer to set these directly in the test as they help explain behaviors. This is from the TOTT episode, Keep Cause and Effect Clear. Another one is to comment or not to comment. That's the taught episode. And the code reviewer said, I agree with the sentiment from Go taught 465. Sometimes the need for a comment can be a sign that the code should be refactored. So that was the best practices. For the episodes about internal tools, there is a nice analysis in this paper. This was published in 2019 in the International Conference of Software Engineering. It's actually authored by Andrew and also Sierra Jaspan, who did the keynote yesterday. So this paper is about looking at how TOTT can increase the usage of recommended tools. So the paper talks about command line tools, a couple of examples of command line tools that talk about TOTT. A couple of examples of TOTT episodes that talk about command line tools are code formatting tools and also code coverage metrics tools. So they found that the usage of tools increased with TOTT episodes. Not everything can be measured in numbers. TOTT is a cultural icon at Google, and reader sentiment goes a long way. We have captured some of our favorite quotes here. I love TOTT. It is one of my favorite things about working at Google, said somebody. Also, the middle one is by this person who came to interview at Google, saw TOTT posted in the restrooms, and goes, TOTT definitely factored into my decision to accept the offer from Google. And yet another one, this helps in my day-to-day work and helps me grow as an engineer. So we love those. TOTT inspires other publications within Google, and we've heard that it's inspired other publications outside of Google as well. So one of the non-technical publications that very much follows, that is very similar to TOTT, but is non-technical. It has short articles about productivity, career development, and personal well-being. And it's called Learning on the Loo. And it is posted alongside TOTT in bathrooms. And there's a nice link here, again, posted on Whova, on the inside story of how Google bathrooms became classrooms. So I do recommend that read. Another example is Chrome on the Throne. So this is TOTT, but for Chrome developers. And this is posted in Chrome team offices. Yet another one, this one teaches German in offices in Germany and Switzerland. So it's regional to those offices. So you can see something in common with all of these episodes as all these publications is the alliterative naming. And you've also seen what happens if we carry the naming scheme too far. But I just wanted to point out also that this is an internal TOTT meme, and there are hundreds of other such memes about TOTT at Google. So before I hand it back to Andrew, I'd like to give a quick mention of the TOTT team. So we are a team of around 10 people, and we are all volunteers. So we kind of dedicate our time to keep TOTT running like the proverbial well-oiled machine, with triaging proposals, editing, reviewing and editing the content, maintaining the site and the external blog, and also maintaining our partnerships with facilities, etc. It's a zero headcount team. We don't have any headcount, so What it means is that the quality bar is set within the team. It's a really high bar for the quality of the episodes. And it also means that if some of the volunteers lose interest, this could disappear forever. But it's been around for 18 years through the volunteers. 20% time is the time that Google gives us to work on projects other than our day jobs. And so when I say volunteers, it's basically people spending 20% time on TOTT out of their own accord. So with that, I hand it back to Andrew.
So we believe there are three main reasons why TOTT is effective: length, content, and audience. And these are the three magic ingredients behind TOTT. Take away any one of these, and TOTT would likely be a fraction as effective as it is now. First reason why TOTT is effective is length. TOTT is limited to one page, which makes it much easier to read, understand, and remember, and ensures each episode focuses on the most important points. This makes it possible for a reader to fit the main concepts of the episode in their head. Second reason why TOTT is effective is content. TOTT episodes are actionable and trusted. They're actionable since each episode has clear takeaways for the reader, such as a coding best practice you could follow or a new productivity tool you can use. And these takeaways are widely relevant across Google. TOTT is trusted and is treated as authoritative by Google engineers. A big reason for this is that we have a rigorous review process to ensure there's a high bar for quality. Even though it's just one page, the review process for each episode could take several weeks. This includes incorporating feedback from domain experts and other engineers at Google. We have an open review process where anyone at Google is allowed to leave feedback on a draft episode, and this ensures that there's general consensus about the technical content. Now, it's possible that TOTT is trusted too much. When Google engineers came to the bathroom the week of April 1st this year, they saw this episode. It's called Write Concise Code to Conserve Disk Space. It opens by saying that Google is running low on disk space to store code, so you have to make your code as concise as possible. A couple of examples it gives are avoid using vowels in your variable names, and instead of writing error handling code, just write error-free code. There are a couple code samples in the page. On the left in red, you can see some verbose Java code. On the right in green, you can see three lines of concise code that's also indecipherable and buggy. So the content is clearly nonsense, but a lot of people initially believed it when they saw this in bathrooms. And that made the prank work very well. You can see some quotes on the slide from Google engineers. This year's April Fool's joke was probably my favorite I've ever seen. Oh my God, this made my day. This made me smile and laugh. Thank you. Google might be the only place in the world where people trust coding advice just because they see it in the bathroom. The third reason why TOTT is effective is audience. TOTT is read by most engineers at Google because there's a captive audience and a global distribution. TOTT has a captive audience, meaning anytime a Google engineer goes to the bathroom during their workday, they'll see TOTT in front of them. Other examples of a captive audience are passengers on an airplane, like you see on the slide, or students in the classroom. And TOTT has global distribution since it's posted in Google offices across the world, so it's read by tens of thousands of Google engineers. All right. Now, we could end this talk by saying you should all start your own bathroom publication, bathroom for development. We think that's a great idea, but it's probably not practical for a lot of you. If any of you do want to try it, we have some printouts here from our public blog that you could come pick up at the end of the talk. But yeah, assuming you're not going to start your own bathroom publication, we'll leave you with 3 lessons that we learned from our involvement in TOTT, and it should be easier to apply these at other companies. These lessons are: keep it brief, scale your knowledge sharing, and developers want best practices documentation. Lesson number 1, keep it brief. The more content you have, the less likely it is that people will read it. This is especially true when you're trying to reach large audiences, like hundreds of people or more. Think of the times you got a long email or came across a long blog post and maybe skimmed through the content or gave up after reading the first few paragraphs. There's a reason DPE Summit is based on talks rather than handing out long write-ups about each topic. Otherwise, everyone's experience at the summit will probably be more like this person on the slide. So when you're sharing information with a large audience, narrow it down to the core concepts. What is the minimal amount of information that people need to know? If there's additional information that not everyone needs to know, put it behind the link and tell people to click that link to learn more. Lesson number 2, scale your knowledge sharing. Many developers have opinions on how to write software, I assume including most people in this audience. The first step to share your knowledge with other people is to write it down. And once you write it down, you have the opportunity to have more impact by sharing it with more people. It's easiest to share with your team. But like another example, you share it with other people at your company that care about a specific aspect of software development, like web development or integration testing or developer velocity. You could even share your knowledge with developers outside your company if you could post a company blog or a personal blog. An email newsletter is a good way to start, so no bathrooms are needed. Just an example, at Google, we have several publications that follow what's called the Tips of the Week format, which is an email newsletter where each edition covers a single software development tip. A couple that we have available to the public are C++ tips of the week, about C++ best practices, and performance tips of the week about optimizing performance and resource usage of your code. Lesson number 3, developers want best practice documentation. It can be hard to find trusted resources about software best practices. If you do a Google search about any particular software best practice, you might find conflicting or incomplete information. It could be hard to know which sources to trust. One action you could take is to build a knowledge base of best practices at your company. You can curate a list of links to existing resources from trusted sources. You could get developers in your company to contribute content about best practices. At Google, we have documentation about a variety of software best practices. One example that we have available to the public is a Google Code Review Best Practices Guide. It has content such as expectations around how fast you should respond to code reviews and advice for leaving good feedback while reviewing code.
All right. So I just wanted to give a summary of what you've heard today about TOTT. So TOTT is a weekly publication. It's about software development best practices, software development topics in general. It is a one-pager. It is concise. It's meant to be read in bathrooms in like 30 seconds. It is written for engineers by engineers, as pretty much anybody at Google can author an episode. It is globally distributed, over 40 sites across the globe. It is effective and efficient way of spreading knowledge about development practices. It is highly trusted, and it is completely volunteer run. So with that, I thank you for attending this talk. And I wanted to also give a shout out to the thousands of people that have kept TOT running over the past 18 years or so. Andrew and I are just representatives who are lucky enough to give this talk. But TOT wouldn't be itself without all the volunteers that work on it. We have our LinkedIn links here. And of course, we can, if you have any questions, we can answer them, talk to you after this talk, or please reach out to us. Also, I've included the Google testing blog link here, and all the links are on Whova as well. So you can look them up. Thank you.
Thank you.